G'day fellas and welcome back to a casted game. Spawning in on the south side of the map, in the colour teal, playing as the English, we've got Louis MT. And on the north side of the map, in the colour orange, playing as the Holy Roman Empire, it's 3DB. Welcome ladies and gentlemen to Highview. We're here on a bit of an interesting spawn of a map. And I say that's interesting because we've got ourselves a fully stealthed in forest, well, almost fully stealthed in forest the entire way across. Often, sometimes you can find these little passageways through, but it doesn't look like it's spawned that way today. Another great matchup as well. I'm a big fan of this matchup. It's a really difficult matchup. I have a lot of trouble with this one playing as the English defender. I think the main issue that I have in this matchup is I don't put enough pressure onto the enemy Holy Roman Empire player. Obviously, I'm not as good as these guys. These guys are currently sitting, I think B sitting at rank 6 on the ladder, Louis MT sitting at rank 8 on the ladder, so these guys are a lot better than me. I mean, I'm Conqueror 3, but obviously nowhere near the level that these guys are. So I'm curious to see exactly how Louis approaches it, and I'm curious to see, by the same token, how B approaches it, because for me, as the Holy Roman Empire, it seems like a very simple game plan. The way that it works is simple. I go to the Castle Age, I collect my relics, I go to the Imperial Age, I make Swabia, and then I just win the game. Whether B looks to do that, whether he mixes things up, we'll have to wait and see, because B is the kind of guy who is always looking for something new. He's always testing, always theorizing. I think he was the first one who actually really brought out the deli and showed everybody how to use them. And I'm going to be curious to see how he plays with the HRE today, whether he looks for that same Imperial Age timing, whether he switches it up. Louis, on the other hand, I would describe him as just a really solid player. The way I think about Louis, it's kind of like the same way about Marine Lord. Doesn't really make a lot of mistakes. Very methodical. Also quite a greedy player as well, which is not necessarily similar to Marine Lord. Maybe a little bit more like the Viper in his play style. But it's very much that methodical play style. Not a lot of mistakes that he makes. But I'm curious to see what type of play he goes for here, whether he'll be looking for a second town center or not. 3 vills on the gold, though. He's going to be looking to drop that council hall probably towards the front of the base. And indeed, there we go. So council hall coming down towards the front of the base. So second town center can easily just been thrown down back here. Let's take a look and see. I think that's too far away. So I think he will have to just pretty much put it on the gold, but I'm curious if he even goes to that. And hold on a minute. All right. Here we go. 3DB, once again, mixing it up. This guy, I mean, what can we say about him? He's a classic when it comes to this kind of stuff. And obviously, I mean, by the time you guys see this video, the drama from Outback Octagon will well and truly have been settled in. You guys would have seen it. You would have seen the fallout from the drama. You would have seen how do I even frame that possibly? Like the stepping back from the drama and all that kind of stuff. And look, I know that there's going to be comments about it, so I may as well just say it. Look, we got the decision wrong. Hopefully, we've come out and we've done the right thing. Ideally, I'd like to move the conversation on from here. We'll be keeping an eye on B. We'll be keeping an eye on everybody, making sure that they all do stick to the rules. But I think it's important that obviously with Octagon, we just do keep in mind the fact that it's a tournament for fun. Try not to take ourselves too seriously, because at the end of the day, I don't really care who becomes the best free-for-all player in the world. What I care about is seeing some cool plays, some good games. That's what it's really about. So anyway, in saying that, let's move on. Let's focus on what's happening here, because Louis is actually going to be opening up with a bit of aggression. Now, did B see this? I don't know whether B saw this. I tell you what, if the devs have got anything that they're working on at the moment, I really hope it's the ability to fucking see through fog of war. God, man, not even see through fog of war, just see historic fog of war from players. Like, how hard is it to know right now, did B see the barracks or not? That's going to influence his decision. I mean, to be honest, it's probably not going to influence his decision. He's already going Meinwerk. He's walling the back. I don't know what that's all about. But my suspicion would be that he's probably going to be looking to play feudal. I mean, you don't go to the Meinwerk Palace and then not play feudal. So it's probably going to be feudal, but what direction does he go? Now, why would he go Meinwerk? Let's just talk a little bit about this, about why this decision is an interesting decision. First, he's already going for +1 range time. This, I tell you what, man, he's another level when it comes to this kind of inventive stuff. Look at this. Already, Louis managing to take out one of those sheep. He says, not going back home. Now, this is interesting. This is really interesting, and I love the style the B's thinking about right here. So let's talk about why this is so crazy cool. One of the ways that you can counter English longbows is you can outpace them, okay? Because the archer is faster than the longbowman. The longbowman has a base movement speed of 1.12. The archer has a base movement speed of 1.25. Now, put on top of it the following. An extra 10% movement speed on top of that. So now you're talking, instead of 1.25, you're going up to what, 1.36? Something like that. Now you're talking about real problems, and we can see already quick +1 comes through on the offense. Now going for the defense as well. Remember, the Meinwerk reduces that cost down by 40%. I don't think I've ever seen a Holy Roman opening like this. Double blacksmith upgrades before the 6-minute mark into mass archers here on the defensive. Now it's going to get spotted out by Louis. Now keep in mind, Louis already gone for the racks. The racks is going to be rendered completely useless, at least at this stage of the game. So how many spears has he gone for? He's gone for 2. 2 spears at the moment. That's all he's gone for, just the 2. But still, those are units that have been made that are now essentially useless because they're just going to get picked to pieces by those archers on the defense. And you can see B just chilling out for the moment. Throws another house down in the front. And there's that next upgrade. Marching drill's going to be coming through for B. What an interesting opening here. Dealing with this early aggression. I mean, this is something that we talked about, or something I talked about previously, is like, I don't really know how to deal with the Holy Roman Empire other than to be aggressive. And I think probably what's happened at the top level is that the English are very aggressive against the Holy Roman Empire in the early game, and subsequently B's like, well, I know how I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to go double archery range, Meinwerk against this. Like, well, I don't think I've ever heard of this, and you can see B, a little bit of a mistake right there, not waiting until the sheep come through, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's honest work, isn't it? So where does Louis go from here? Because from Louis' position, I feel like, okay, you kind of got to go in a mass longbow, but the thing is, this is where it gets really hard, right? Because there's mitigating returns on the amount of longbow that you get. What do I mean by that? Longbow, they've got more damage than an archer, okay? 6 damage up against the 5 damage. So it means that as their numbers get higher, you're going to be getting less value out of them because your ability to target down individual units, it's a little bit weaker because you've got so much damage already. So as the numbers go up, as B begins to approach, say, 30 archers, 40 archers, this longbow mass, and let's say you're sitting on 30 longbows, it becomes irrelevant because once those archers finally outnumber you, they get critical mass. They just get on top of you and just start killing you. And that's exactly what I suspect B is going to be looking for here. We see that those 3 upgrades have come through, at least those 3 relevant upgrades. He's picked up the movement speed. He's sitting on 1.38 movement speed here against the longbowman with 1.12. That's a big difference. That's a huge difference. Louis, I'd be curious to see, but I would be surprised if he didn't go into a second TC. I feel like going into a second TC here is really the right play. And take a look at this. Louis actually going to be going with the an interesting design. So he should be able to fit in 12 farms around the backside here. So you can see he's sitting on 11 for the moment, but we'll obviously throw down a 12th one here. This is interesting because it's at the cost of efficiency, right? Like you don't have everyone nice and tight and close. So there's a little bit more walking distance, and that's not necessarily the best thing. So, I mean, I can see where he's coming from with this. I'd actually be curious to see the numbers. I wonder if Age of Noob's done... I mean, I watched Age of Noob's farming video a couple of times, and I don't think he covered this. And to be honest, it's probably a pretty small thing, so I don't know, maybe he could do a short or something like that. But I'd be curious to know whether this is... Like, surely it's just more efficient to just spend the 50 wood on a mill and then just get the extra farms around that mill immediately adjacent. That would be my thinking. But I guess this does kind of, like, save costs in the early game. Louis... not really looking towards that second town center at all. Instead, might be thinking about Castle Age and obviously puts down the outpost, realizing he's outnumbered. Now, of course, when it comes to the Archer Wars, we talked about it before, the fact that once you reach that critical mass, the B is now approaching 24 archers, 25 coming out. You can surround those enemy longbows, get on top of them and take them out. But if you've got a town center, if you've got that network of castles bonus and that town center that's just firing down upon your enemy, well, that's a different story, isn't it? And B obviously going to come up and empty-handed. Really nice control right now from Louis. But it doesn't look like any villagers are going to be going down at this stage. Just very, very close posturing. Now, interestingly, Louis did lose his scout in the middle of the map. We saw that a bit earlier, so he's not going to have a whole lot of vision here towards the front. Men-at-arms, though, just kind of standing very bravely towards that front side. And I think that if B wanted to, he could come forward, pick off maybe 1 or 2, but you got to be asking the question, is it really worth it at this point? Up behind this upgrade's going to be coming through. And B with a lot of vills on gold. This, to me, is signaling maybe it's time for a bit of a castle age. 9 villages on gold. I mean, you're not going 9 villages in the feudal age on gold unless you're planning on getting every single eco upgrade and then going castle, or just going castle just standard. Now, one other thing to note is that there's going to be a little bit of a tough mid-game here for the Holy Roman Empire, just because of the lack of Archon Chapel. But look at this. 1, 2, skip a few. 99, 100 damage. And moves forward now. into the formation, getting off some beautiful shots here, forces that stable out and says, you know what, you're not going to complete that stable here. I'm not going to allow it. Second rack's going to be coming in on the backside for Louis. So this is so dangerous for Louis. I don't think this is the right decision at all. What am I talking about? I'm talking about these barracks, all right? Look at the men-at-arms. 112 movement speed, 1.12 movement speed. I mean, we could call it 112 movement speed. I'm sure that probably works over. You know what? I'm going to stick with 112 movement speed here compared to the 138 movement speed of the archers. And even when they've got the charge going, they're still not going to be able to catch the archers. So I don't care if you're up to like 40 men-at-arms, the archers are still going to kite. They're going to kite and they're going to never stop kiting. But let's talk about the next upgrade that's coming through. It's the unique upgrade for spearmen. This is going to be increasing the armor of spearmen and horsemen, of course horsemen, by 2. That's a lot, right? Especially when you think about, you know, what's the response here from Louis? From Louis, the response is to go towards that second racks. Well, now all of a sudden you've got extra armor against those men-at-arms. Stable still on the front side, incomplete, just like the Backstreet Boys. It's terrible to see. Riveted chainmail does come through. And now behind this, the age up from Louis. So with that castle age coming in, the barracks also just sits idly incomplete. Looking to try and pick up a couple more units. Not going to be able to find it. We do see that there are some units inside. It's just going to be the villagers for the moment. He's on a couple of sheep back there. But a very slow start. I say a slow start. It's not really a slow start. It's a very passive start. But I mean, you got to appreciate what B's been able to achieve here. Really taking it to Louis. You can see the difference in score, but obviously that's expressed for a number of reasons. I'm sure when Louis finally ages up, that's going to change drastically. We'll take a look from the perspective of Louis though and see how he's doing. He's got actually, could there be? Oh, I tell you what. I think he will get it up. I think he should be fine. But had B poked and prodded in here, he would have found this, and it could have been really terrible. Comes around the backside. Age up will come through. Now a knight in this situation is really good, and a mangonel would be really, really nice here as well. So that would work, but it looks like it's just going to be men-at-arms that he's going into. So we see armor cladding as well as those castle age upgrades coming through for the men-at-arms. Couple villagers jump inside the King's Palace. He's able to hold off. He does scout the King's Palace as well, so knows that his enemy's heading into a King's Palace. Means that they're focusing more on their economy, less on their military. And honestly, if I'm B, I'm like, actually, that's a window. I'm not even kidding you. I think that's a window to go Imperial here. And I know that seems crazy to think about. Like, oh, my enemy went King's Palace. Now I can go Imperial. But you got to think about it from this perspective, right? Your enemy is now going to be spending more resources, investing in vills, and subsequently, it means they're not focused as much on their military as they would have been had you gone for White Tower. And because of that, you've got space. You've got a little bit of extra space to think about going up to the Imperial Age. Beautiful fight coming through from B. Managing to pick off a lot of the archers here. Accidentally fires at the house. Manages to take out all the longbows. Villager also getting caught in on the action. Will get taken out. The men-at-arms, he's just completely ignoring them. Just going to be able to run away. And we do see back towards the base of B. Horseman numbers are starting to build now for him, and he's thinking about a castle age. We'll switch it over to the income per minute so you can get an idea of where these two are at with regard to their incomes. And now that extra armor has come through. Men-at-arms of Louis are slowly but steadily getting whittled down by the forces of B, but I tell you what, it's going to be a while before these men-at-arms do eventually go the way of the dodo, that's for sure. All right, we're back towards the base of B. I'm curious what direction he goes into, whether he thinks about moving into knights. Obviously, knights are a really strong unit when you go for the Meinwerk, just because you've got steel barding, which gives you extra melee range and extra ranged armor. Did I say extra melee range? Extra melee defense? Melee armor, I guess we could go into. Double spear on the backside here. Looking to pick them up, and you can see how quickly those archers move over towards that right side. Horseman doing a decent job dealing with the men-at-arms, creating that nice little frontal position. But I feel like in this position, I mean, Louis on 2 military units right now. Oh, this is terrible for Louis. I feel like Louis needs to go into a mangonel, and this is where it comes into like White Tower would have actually been a legit choice here, but then he doesn't have the eco. So maybe going into the second TC and then the White Tower, but then you can't really take the second TC because the stone's not going to be possible for you because your enemy's got all these archers. So there's all of these factors that have now been changed just simply because your enemy went into this big archer mass that you couldn't really account for. And I think that's kind of the big brain move here coming out from B. Regnitz Cathedral now gets thrown down. He's up to 5 prelates. Oh my god, he's on 5 prelates. I tell you what, I watch a lot of Holy Roman Empire games, and one of the things I always comment on is the lack of prelates. But if there is one thing this game that B does not have a lack of, it is prelates. 5 prelates, baby. All of them moving out across the map right now, and we can see them moving out to all corners here. He's picked up 2 of the relics so far. 3 relics remain. It's going to be those relics closer towards his enemy. And obviously going for the Regnitz Cathedral, it means that he's going to have that extra income coming through from those relics. Where does he go from here? We do see on the way through. I was going to say camel barding. It's not. It's steel barding coming through from him. And also looking to pick up veterancy on the longbows. Or rather, on the archers. All the relics getting sniped away. That's going to be 4. And the 5th one out here for the moment. He's got a prelate on the loose somewhere. There it is. Prelate just chilling out. Sacred site. Oh, there we go. He's actually moving backwards to go and pick up that relic. So we'll trigger that alert off. But I mean, B's just in a wonderful position here. I'm impressed at the way that he's played this game so far. One base, Meinwerk, holds off at the beginning of the game, goes up to the castle age, follows his enemy up, but still puts himself in a really good position, keeps that military really small. And now all 5 relics have been picked up by B. He's got 2 in the bag, 3 of them on the way in. Wolf attacking over on the west side. Warwick looking to get a little bit into it. Watch the armor of the knight about to come through now. 2 seconds. 1 second. Take a look at this. Boom. Extra 2 armor. Really, really nice. And now we see Sacred Site starting to get captured in the center of the map. The mass here for B is still incredibly strong. Veterancy's come through on the archers, so he's doing a little bit more damage to these men-at-arms. Keep in mind, they do have just their armor cladding. No +1, no +2 just yet for him. But now going to start looking to take those sacred sites. He's got plenty of sites out here that he can look to capture. And keep in mind, with these prelates out and about, it's going to mean that he can just send them casually up to go buff up 5 villagers here, 5 villagers there. As long as he keeps his prelate with the vills, he'll be a happy camper. More outposts now looking to come down as he begins marching units across the map. No sign of a castle age just yet. Instead, or rather, an imperial age just yet. Instead, going to be looking to stick it out in the castle age, inside the base of Louis, though. The question is, where does he go from here? And he throws down an archery range. This is going to be the 3rd archery range, technically. So he's got the council hall, which counts for 2. We do see B now moving around the south side of the base. I didn't think the Meinwerk Palace was viable, but B found a way. He managed to do it, and look at the stables coming down. Quintuple stables, 5 stables now coming out for B. And now, at the same time, on the south side of the base, he's going to idle out a couple villagers here. The consequence of no walls that your enemy marches in and starts to idle you. So whether you like it or not, you're going to have to lose those resources, whether you lose them because you're idle, whether you lose them because your villagers were building a wall. Doesn't matter. And arm numbers starting to build, though. Men-at-arms obviously going to do pretty well up against the archers, not so well against the knights, but realistically, there's not a whole lot of units out here. Crossbow numbers are building, but he's only on the 4 crossbows, so not the best. Relic just chilling out in the middle. That's 4 in the bag, 1 in the hand, so no income for that one. And all 3 sacred sites will be captured. Is he actually meant to be standing on this sacred site? I'm not sure what's happened, but one of those relics is not sitting there. Prelate just kind of chilling out with the relic in hand. I think he's going to realize any second now, once he looks to try and capture this sacred site in the middle. Numbers keep building for B. Where's the food economy for B? Let's take a look and see. So, towards the north of the map, I think we just heard that relic deposited. Yeah, so 5th relic is deposited, 18 minutes into the game. So, expect to see that gold income really start to build. But he does have access to a boar close by. He was out taking berries. We're 18 minutes into this game, by the way, and not a single farm is down yet. No farms whatsoever. And he's got berries close to the base. He's got the hunt up towards the north, so he's still got plenty of food, honestly. I'm impressed with the amount of food he's still got out here. Look at all the prelates. He's got 4 prelates just chilling out at this point. I mean, you'd be thinking about getting the healing upgrade for your prelates. What are we talking about here? Yeah, herbal medicine. There's a lot of upgrades that you could look at. But Louis' numbers have started to build. He's managed to match what B's got, only a little bit behind him. Army value still pretty disproportionate, though. Crossbow numbers, we're talking only 4. Men-at-arms beginning to move out. Yet to receive their +1s or +2s. Only +1 range attack on the longbows. They're going to be looking to try and pick off the enemy knights, but look at how indestructible those knights are. 8 armor coming through on the Holy Roman Empire knights. This is one of the things I feared about when they changed the way the Meinwerk Palace worked. It is that these knights are incredibly strong. It looks like B may have found a way to abuse a landmark that some people, me included, thought was pretty much useless at this point. I know Beastie's been an outspoken critic of this landmark. He wouldn't build it even if you paid him $1,000 to do it, but it seems to be doing pretty well in this matchup at this moment. B is holding out strong in this attack. Louis in trouble. We're 19 minutes through this game, and Louis, I'm starting to feel like he's got his back up against the wall as the knights begin to make their way underneath the town center. He doesn't have much to defend himself. Meanwhile, behind this, B is thinking about going Imperial, but I can't help but feel like even at this point, the game looks almost over. If these knights get stuck in the base, how does Louis hold this? He's got spears coming out. I'm assuming a couple of spears on the way out. They're only feudal spears, and there's plenty of archers here to take them out. Manages to get maybe 1 attack off before those spears all get eviscerated, and Palace of Swabia begins to go down on the other side of the map. Of course, throwing it down on the wood line, as are the legal requirements of the Swabia. And now at this point, I mean, Louis, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place. Sure, he's up. Like, look at the villager count. He's up 24 vils. He's having a field day when it comes to his economy. But what does your economy matter if you're idled out? He's got 23 idols at the moment. So matching the same, but I mean, B had plenty of idols for a second there. But obviously the Swabia is now coming up. That means that he's going to be able to start thinking about his farm transition. Now, it looks like finally the English defensive town center has whittled down the enemy. We see spears coming out for Louis at this point. He has got the upgrades. Knights also coming out. But what unit composition can Louis go into here against this? Mass archer and knights. I guess you could probably play spear crossbow with a mango. That could work. But now your enemy's in Imperial Age, so they've got access to a culverin. So the Swabia is now up. And expect this gap to close quickly. 27 villages the difference. I think B may have lost a couple of vills when we weren't looking. I don't remember it being this big of a gap, but maybe my counting just wasn't the best. In fact, he didn't lose any, so yeah, my counting's just not the best. So a 27 villager gap, but watch how quickly that closes. Remember right now, he's going to have the Swabia and the town center working, so the equivalent of 4 town centers against 2. So in the time that it takes Louis to get to 20 vils, B's going to have made 40 vils. Think about it from that perspective. So you're talking 110 villagers versus 106. That's what it will be as long as no villagers die. But hold your horses, ladies and gentlemen, because I suspect we may see some dead villagers here. B going to be looking to attack in on the bottom side. Let's take a look at the upgrades that he's picking up right now. +3 ranged armor, angled surfaces, elite archers, elite knights, tithe barns, fortifying outposts as well. So expect to see maybe an emplacement or 2 on these central outposts, and that's exactly what we see coming in. Keep in mind, he's got a relic in here, 160 gold a minute. So if he loses this, that's going to be it. No emergency repairs because it's in the middle of the map. Elite knights are through though, and now you're going to have trouble. Look how much armor he's got. He's got 10 armor on these bad boys. I mean, the crossbows, realistically, how much damage are they doing? They're doing 14 damage with 9. So you're talking about 23 damage. That goes down to 13. That's a massive reduction in the damage that they're doing. Compare that to the longbow. I don't even think the longbows are scraping the surface. Longbows have got 10 attack. These guys have got 10 armor. They're healing. Well, not healing. I mean, they're always doing 1 damage at least. So the spears are going to be cleaned up here. Swabia gets scouted out. Keep going up for B. He knows that if I die, it's to a push that's imminent right now. And behind this, B is idling out the economy. We can see in the base of Louis, he's struggling to keep the head above water. The knights, together with just a handful of elite archers, are really going to cause a lot of trouble for him here. And it all comes back to this Archon. It all comes back to that opening. The fact that B was able to take control of the map, take control of the game, force his enemy to stay off that second town center. We never saw a second TC coming out of Louis MT. I'm not going to call the King's Palace a second TC. It's a landmark. You don't have to pay stone for that bad boy. And now we see a forward keep coming down from B. B looking to really take control of this game. Looks like we've got devoutness coming through, rather. An extra 10% inspiration, which obviously helps out for these sort of smaller little positions that you've got down over here. A couple of prelates just buffing up villagers, looking to keep it real. And now those knight numbers are starting to build, and Louis going to try and hold on. How does Louis hold on in this position? I feel like Louis needs to get Imperial himself with a... oh, see, this is the thing, right? If he goes... He needs to go Berkshire, and he needs to go for like, it needs to be a defensive one right here that covers his entire base. Maybe even goes for like a Berkshire over here. Maybe delete the blacksmith and put the Berkshire there, and then that kind of covers everything. And then look to get the cannon emplacement in ASAP. Look to try and get Springald emplacement in. And then that holds you on. But the thing is, you're just going to be dealing with this keep push. Look at this keep push coming out from B. So obnoxious. He's got 800 stone a minute. Every minute he's going to be building a new keep on the base, on the forward front here of Louis. And, I mean, that's trouble for you. Is Louis looking for Imp here? I feel like Louis is looking for Imp. He's got a lot of gold coming through. If he can get Imp, if he can get to... Oh, see, this is the thing. Enclosures has been nerfed. It's not the overpowered tech that it once used to be, says the English main. It's not as overpowered as it used to be, cried the English main. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a good point. It was completely busted. Farm economy now coming through, though, for B. He's up to 21 farms. Honestly, 24 minutes into the game, a Holy Roman Empire player being on 21 farms is kind of unheard of. That's wild. That is absolutely wild. But he's done really well to keep it going this way. We start to see more and more emplacements being thrown in. 2 keeps have been thrown down already. And B manages to find a way to work this absolutely insane Meinwerk opening into just an incredible game. Honestly, it all just comes back to this Meinwerk opening for me. Spearman number starting to increase, and we do see it is going to be spear crossbow that he's moving into. And Louis is going Imperial, so it definitely makes the right call, or the right choice. The question is going to be whether he's going to be able to hold it. And now the keep coming through, he's going to be able to leverage this keep as a bit of a base, a stranglehold or a forward position, get some bombards behind it and start working through these landmarks. Spear begins to move forward, crossbows on the backside. Archer's going to get picked apart here. Spear's doing a great job, managing to skewer a lot of the elite lancers or elite knights that are here, but keep in mind, that extra armor is going to really do quite a bit of work here against these crossbows. They're not going to be as effective, and the Berkshire Palace is indeed coming up. Where does he go with the Berkshire? Oh, Berkshire's in the back of the base. I don't know about this Berkshire. You leave the top side of your base completely undefended. It's a good position, though. The question is whether it was the best position. I think you could have gone something like that and maybe held it a little bit easier, but I guess you're obviously under attack from this western flank, so it makes sense. More emplacements coming through. The cannon emplacements. Louis reaches the Imperial Age and looks to defend. What upgrades does he look for? Enclosures. He's going to be the first one off the blocks. Definitely the right call here. Trying his best to hold on. Needs to look for those elite upgrades. Elite spears are going to be really important here to pick up. Doesn't have a whole lot of gold in the bank, though. Elite spears actually works out perfectly. It gives him plenty of resources to play with. Doesn't have much production, though, and we can see the double siege workshop coming in. Plenty of Raxes back here. Let's see exactly how he looks to try and hold, Louis. Under pressure. Cannon emplacements are completing for these keeps. We can see that they've got relics in them as well. He moves the relics up towards the front, double siege workshop on the backside, and now we see that this is the angle that B comes in to attack with. Onto the farms. There's nothing here to protect them, nothing to defend them, no town centers to run to, and all the villagers have to run away. Keep in mind, they had their enclosures on the way, which means now not only are you losing food, but you're also potentially losing gold. We don't see the sacred site taken. Louis struggling over here on the east side. I can hear a Warwick in here. There it is. There he is. Get him, boy. Get a bit of the action yourself, bud. And now that Berkshire kind of just sits here, idle, not really doing much. And I mean, don't get me wrong, like there's stuff going on down here, but it just feels like the positioning a little bit curious because, I mean, you could have just covered so easily, but now you've got to deal with all these units on the top side. And now that he knows about it, he's just going to start running units in here, nothing to defend it. I feel like maybe the blacksmith delete was the play, but it's hard to think about that when you've got so many things going on. Berkshire now going to be firing down. Trebuchet, number one, is out. Needs to make sure he protects this MVP or this VIP, whatever you want to call him. Needs to keep it alive. Keep in mind, emergency repairs will be in play here. Surely the town center will get built on the front line as soon as B sees that trebuchets come through. He's obviously got the resources in the bank to drop down that town center. And the first of the bombards is out. Battering ram out as well. Louis holding on. Elite crossbowmen have come through. He's opted to go for the elite crossbowman route. Definitely the right choice here. Up against veteran, or up with the veteran spears as well. He'll be looking into it, and we see geometry on the way through here, increasing the damage of the trebs just slightly. Now, if I remember correctly, it doesn't increase the damage that trebs do to buildings. So you're getting a little bit of extra damage here, but it's only base damage. It's not really that impactful. It's a pretty cheap upgrade, though. If I'm honest, it's pretty cheap. I'd be looking for like shattering projectiles, but oh, that's expensive though. Probably not the shattering projectiles. Numbers starting to build for Louis. The main problem he's got are these knights. There's so many knights, and he's going to try and fight once again in these choke points. This is the best place for him to fight. You can see emergency repairs does come through. Obviously, he did drop down the town center. Second bombard is out. So no surprise seeing that emergency repairs come through. He's going to have to move up to 3, 4, maybe even 5 trebuchets to try and deal with this. We do see the first of the landmarks has gone down. It's going to be the council hall. And slowly but steadily, Louis, oh no, Louis left the trebuchets unprotected, and we see the knights run in. First of the trebs just goes down. Mangonel also goes down before even getting off a shot. Second treb goes down. Now, honestly, at that point, I feel like it's good game. Now you can't deal with these keeps because you've lost the trebs. And yeah, you can get another treb out, but you've already got these knights behind the enemy lines. And this is where it just all comes down to that positioning of the Berkshire Palace. Had the Berkshire Palace. Had this Berkshire Palace been up a little bit further, then you've really got a nice little foothold for yourself. But it just makes it so much more difficult. And now the landmark victory is really starting to approach. Second landmark has gone down. Last 2 landmarks within reach. Keep in mind the Berkshire does, oh, never mind, it's not going to matter. Ladies and gentlemen, go check out these 2 creators. Well, I'm going to say go check out this one creator, 3DB. I don't actually know where Louis streams. Actually, you know what? I think he streams on a Chinese platform. I don't have the link for it though, but I'm sure if I Googled it, I could find it. But anyway, go check him out. I'll leave links in the description where you can watch B live. And of course, we'll catch you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching.